All right. So part of grade 6 is the life cycles. So we started off last week or 2 weeks ago, we started off with the soul comes into this world. We spoke about birth. We spoke about the Jewish name. We spoke about a boy with the bris, the circumcision. We spoke about a girl, her at the Torah reading, her name is given. We spoke about the milestone of the three, the upshernish, the cutting of the hair for a boy, the candle lighting for the girl. And last week, we ended off with bar and bat mitzvah. We spoke about how the soul is completely fused together with the body at the age of 12 for a girl and 13 for a boy, and now a girl or a boy is able to take a certain sense of control in their choices. So what happens by marriage? That's the next step. Okay. So you've heard of the concept of soulmates, right? What does that mean?
That the one that find another soul. That the soul that was sent split it into two.
So,
and
that is correct. According to Kabbalistic teachings, the concept in general of soulmates is a Jewish concept, is that soulmates, before a person is born, their soul, like, just to understand what a soul is, I mean, we're not going into that in depth right now, but a soul is like a flame. Can you take from one flame and give it to another flame? What happens when you take from the first flame? The flame still becomes its own flame. So probably the only thing in the world that you take away something, but it still can create another whole. Same with the soul. The soul gets split into two, the male and the female version, and they each become their own soul with their own mission. When they find each other again through marriage, that is what it means, soulmate. Well, the fire actually, yeah, actually, I don't have it here on the PowerPoint, but we know. So just so you know that marriage is a godly institution. And I'll say that again. The concept of marriage, the idea of getting married. You know what marriage is called in Hebrew? Anybody? It's called kiddushin. It's holy. So the institution of marriage, and I don't want to get into, I'm not going to go there, but as the years go on and so much new ideas of marriage have come out, right? And I'm not talking about it on an extreme level. I'm talking about just in general with different ways that people would like to be married. It's important to remember that being together with a partner is one thing, but marriage is a godly institution. Marriage. If you want to live together with another person, that's another discussion. But the concept of marriage is godly. So now let's talk about what God had in intention for what marriage is. So we know that when Hashem created Avram, it's not Avram, Adam, the first person. It says that Hashem created, they were one being, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, and he split them into two beings. And that is how, in marriage, a man and a woman on a soul level are connected, also on a physical level connect as one being. This is within the context of marriage. This is the way Hashem designed it, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Now, we know that there are three partners in a Jewish marriage. There's the man, there's the woman, and there's Hashem. And if you know, how do you say a man in Hebrew? A man is Yiddish. Is Ish, and a woman is Isha. How do you spell Ish? Aleph, Yud, Shin. How do you spell Isha? Aleph, Shin, Hey. They both have an Aleph, and they both have a Shin. The man has a Yud, and the woman has a Hey. The Yud and the Hey are Hashem's name. If you take Hashem out of the marriage, you only have an Aleph and a Shin. What's Aleph and Shin? Aish. What's Aish? Fire. So if you want to have when you have Hashem in the marriage, that is the way it was intended to always be. And when we bring Hashem into the marriage, godliness, and the truth is, it's not just about marriage. We know, I think we've been together for almost a year already. We know that the way Hashem has, as the creator of us and of this world, we know that everything in this world has a way it's meant to be. We spoke about the way we wake up. We spoke about the way we go to sleep. We spoke about the way we eat, the way we dress. Everything has a way to maximize our most important, the best way we can live our lives in the way that Hashem created us. So when it comes to marriage, it's the same thing. How do we bring Hashem into our marriage? So just so you know, and I'm not going to touch upon it on a deep level here, but the idea of marrying another Jewish person, this idea stems from soulmates, as in connection to a soul. One Jewish soul and one other Jewish soul connect on a soul level, and a non-Jewish soul connects with another non-Jewish soul. It's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a matter of what it is on a soul connection. How does a Jew get married? What is the process? Has anyone here ever been by a real Jewish wedding? All right. So what was your favorite part? So the chuppah. Why do we have a chuppah? What is it? So there's the chuppah. What is the tradition of? So the process of the Jewish wedding begins. It's called in Hebrew a chasana or a chatuna, and the most important part of the wedding is the actual ceremony. So this over here, we see a picture of a chuppah. A chuppah is like a canopy that represents. We're going to go through each of the parts. Okay, so let's back up. A couple decides that they're going to get married. What is the way, just like each stage in life, you prepare for your bar bat mitzvah, you prepare for anything in life. How does a couple prepare for their wedding?
Save money.
Save money, okay, what else? Classes, very good. So go see a rabbi, okay. So first of all, believe it or not, traditional Jewish communities, there's something called chassan classes and kala classes. Classes for brides and classes for grooms. Because there's things that one in a marriage, even if you know about marriage, you've seen your parents' marriage, when a couple decides to get married, there are things, first of all, there are mitzvahs that they've never ever done.
So the class is not for ceremony; it's for the
correct. It's to get ready. So no, it's for the life ahead. So first, very clever, right? So first of all, let's see if I can sit. First of all, it's there's like Alex said, for the life together. They teach girls what does it mean to be a wife, and they teach boys what does it mean to be a husband. Can you imagine?
Missing in our society today.
Totally.
I miss those classes.
Yeah. But isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yes.
That to teach a boy who's been single his whole life, and now you're about to take care of a wife, what does that mean? And the same for a woman. What does that mean to be a wife? So that's on a basic level. The second thing that are discussed in classes are mitzvahs that now apply to the young couple that did not apply before. What is the biggest mitzvah that applies to a couple that did not apply before?
To make kids.
But what's that? So having children, and what is the mitzvah that prefaces that? The laws of mikvah. Because a woman, before she gets a girl before she gets married, you have a good angle? It's okay. Before she gets married, has never needs to go to the mikvah. A woman only goes to the mikvah in the context of a Jewish marriage. So a single girl who's getting married never obviously had to go to the mikvah and did not have to observe the laws of what we call taharat hamishpacha. Taharat HaMishpacha means purity, mishpacha of the family. It's called the laws of family purity. So a woman not just learns about what does it mean to go to the mikvah, but she'll be going to the mikvah for many, many, many years. What are all those laws? You know, a child that grows up in a home where it's Torah observant, most mitzvahs, by the time they're ready to get married, are natural. You know, they wake up in the morning naturally, they wash their hands, they say Modani, but there are mitzvahs when a woman gets married or a man gets married that are brand new. Very unusual, by the way. It's like a boy puts on tefillin for the first time. It's a big deal. Never had to do it till now. Same thing, when a woman starts to go to mikvah, it's a very big deal in a woman's life and really in the couple's life because they're embarking now on this new journey. And it's also very beautiful that in a Torah observant community, there is an education around this mitzvah, not just on the mikvah and the immersion of mikvah and what that entails. And really this class, the concept of mikvah, it's like its own class on its own, but around physical intimacy. And what does that mean? A husband's role in that and a woman's role. And it's a beautiful way to really educate a couple to have the most beautiful, harmonious relationship. Yes.
What is unusual to go to the mikvah? Because they never swim, or it's a physical?
It's a mitzvah that you never did. Have you ever seen a mikvah?
Oh yeah.
So a mikvah is, the measurement of a mikvah is 40 sa'ah, certain measurement, where one goes inside, they immerse themselves, they say a blessing, and then they immerse themselves 2 other times. The only time that mitzvah is done is in the context of marriage, 7 days after the finishing of menstruation.
Mm-hmm.
So that mitzvah is a brand new mitzvah. They've never done it. You don't have to know how to swim because it's not so deep.
No, I understand,
So,
but they physically
so the mitzvah and the energy attached to that what is it?
It's more mentally than physical.
It's both. You never had to go. You can, even though an ocean is a mikvah, you've probably never done this. Not probably. You've never done this mitzvah where you said the bracha. Number 1.
Yeah,
Number 2, immersing completely with no clothing on into a body of water, and then the intention behind the mitzvah is a very holy time. When a woman immerses in a mikvah, it's one of the most auspicious times in a woman's life. In fact, the 3 mitzvahs connected to a woman, the candle lighting, any woman who has lit Shabbos candles can attest to that very special moment when she closes her eyes and davens to Hashem. When she takes dough for challah, there's a special moment when she says that blessing. And then when one immerses in the mikvah, it's a very holy, special time where she can stay in the water and pray for her family, for her, her marriage. And so it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, but it's all of it. Yes.
Before a woman get married,
She never has gone to a mikvah. Yeah, so it's the very first time she will go to the mikvah. It's a very special moment because it's the start. And in many communities, you're accompanied by one's mother. It's like passing on that mitzvah to your daughter, and then she will go for the rest of her life on her own. A mother will never. It's a beautiful tradition, especially because mikvah is connected to the laws of marriage. It'll never be a moment for a mother and a daughter again because it'll always belong to the couple. So it's a very beautiful passing on of that mitzvah, and that is done the night before the wedding. So that is the first mitzvah that is done, and that is done before the wedding. And there's also, as I said before, there's preparation. And I think that this is just a beautiful concept that everything is intentional in Torah. Everything in Yiddishkeit is intentional, and we prepare for it. Anything that's important in life needs preparation. So once the laws of, it's like learning how to drive with not driving. Those classes, that's what I always say. It's good to learn, and then you get married, and it's like, okay, that sounded interesting in a class. Definitely different in real life. In fact, it says that the day of one's wedding is like Yom Kippur. Just like on Yom Kippur, we fast and we ask Hashem to forgive us. It's customary for a bride and a groom to fast on their wedding day, and they break their fast after the chuppah. And all their sins are forgiven on that day. There's actually a custom to ask your parents for mechila, for forgiveness for anything that you've done, because you're starting a new slate. It says that Hashem starts you off on a new slate, and you begin. So it's a very holy time. Most brides and grooms will complete the entire Tehillim on that day. It's a day of prayer. It's a serious time. It's the beginning really of a lifetime of of of, of something brand new. Now, the most important part of the ceremony is the actual chuppah. The reason we have a chuppah is because it's customary that the chuppah be under the stars, it be out in the open. It reminds us of the promise that Hashem has to his children, that the Jewish people will be as many as the stars and the sand. So that's where the custom comes from, for the chuppah to be out in the open. And it is officiated by an ordained rabbi. There has to be how many witnesses? There has to be 2 witnesses to the wedding. And that is one part of it. Then there's something called the ketubah. What is the ketubah? Is the marriage contract. The ketubah is read, and it talks about the obligations of what a man needs to do for his wife and what a wife needs to do for her husband. And then is the actual ceremony. So during the chuppah, before the chuppah, the groom covers his wife's face with a veil. And one of the reasons for that, there's many reasons, is to show that what's most important in the marriage is the inner beauty, not the outer beauty. Actually, there's also a lot of connections with Jacob and Rachel and Leah, who we didn't see, which I'm not going to go into. But we could talk about this, by the way, for a long time. There's so many fascinating things. Anyone who's thinking of getting married, you should take lessons, and you'll learn all the beautiful things. I do want to just mention one thing. I think it's important to know. If one is within the context of a Jewish marriage and has never gone to the mikvah, because for whatever reason, it's not too late. Even if one has passed their time of menstruation, one is still encouraged to go to the mikvah, because it says that spiritually, if one immerses in a mikvah, it can retroactively affect all the times that they should have gone to mikvah. So if there's anyone sitting around this table who is currently married to a Jewish person and they have and they have not gone to the mikvah, I have personally taken many women to the mikvah who yeah, I've personally taken many women to the mikvah for this one-time event, and it's been a very special experience. So please reach out to me. I'd be happy to make that happen for you. There's a beautiful mikvah in Sarasota.
We'll wait for our mikvah to be built.
Don't wait.
Okay.
Never wait. The best time to do a mitzvah is today.
I thought it's going to be open tomorrow.
Halavai.
It's before Yom Kippur.
There is a custom to go to a mikvah before Yom Kippur as a cleansing. By the way, many men go to a mikvah as a custom before like a holiday. There are many men that go to a mikvah every day before they pray. The whole concept of mikvah is a change in status. It's like a purification. But for men, or Erev Yom Kippur, it's a custom. For a woman, it's a mitzvah. It's different. It's a biblical obligation to go to the mikvah whenever her time is. During the chuppah, the 7 blessings are said over a cup of wine. There's a lot of significance over the number 7 of completion within nature. There's 7 times the bride circles the groom. Then there's the putting of the ring of a groom puts a ring on the bride. Yes, point the finger. And then the glass. What does the glass represent? Everybody shouts Mazel Tov. It's different. That's correct. The serious answer and the true answer is that even though this is one of the happiest moments in a couple's life, there is an element of sadness in the world because we don't have Mashiach. The temple has been destroyed, so there's an element of sadness. Rabbi likes to tell the joke that you tell the chassan, the groom, it's the last time he'll ever put his foot down. So he puts. So you can choose whichever one you'd like, and then the wedding is celebrated, of course, with a large feast and dancing, and it's a big mitzvah actually to bring joy to the bride and groom. And the reason this is such a special occasion is the union of 2 souls coming together is a big reason to celebrate. The beginning of a Jewish family is a big reason to celebrate. And it's actually a mitzvah to bring joy at a wedding and to make the groom and the bride happy and to smile. Okay, we spoke about marrying Jewish. All right, that's marriage. Sounds good?
What about this when they put it on a chair and
Every place has different customs. There's definitely no mitzvah to go on a chair.
Question.
Yes.
Me and my husband married more than 30 years, but we never had a chuppah. Are we married by Jewish law? No. No.
Actually, it's a very interesting.
Alex is a pre-member.
First of all, according to Jewish law, if you never, it's not a simple answer to start with. It's not no, but it's not yes either. No, really. The best advice I can give you,
Go see a rabbi.
no, is to have a wedding. We did it for Tzila, remember? We did it recently for Rima. And I think the next wedding we've got is Rita and Alex. Everyone's invited. You what? With it's a very, very special thing, and you shouldn't delay because it's a new energy that comes into a marriage. Rita and Alex, I'm inviting the whole class to your wedding. Yeah.
Now she's playing hard to
Listen, it all works out. All right. What time is it? Okay, we still have time. All right. So that's the basic Jewish life cycles. We did not discuss death. We will talk about it at a later time. Not how does a Jew die, but what are the processes involved in that. Okay. The next couple of lessons are connected to Jewish concepts. So first of all, creation. The basic Jewish idea that the world was created by God. Believe it or not. How many days did it take God to create it? Not 7. The creation is not 7 days. It was in 6 days, and on the 7th day, Hashem created. I want to just say that that's right. What inspired me to start this class was this topic. We were sitting in our book club last year, and I had a question about the moon connected to the Jewish people. And I asked the class, the woman who was sitting there, I said, when was the moon created? Not one person knew the answer. And I said, if we don't know the basics, I'm talking lofty ideas of how Jews are connected to the moon, but we don't even know. Let's go back to the basics. When was the moon created? So I decided that's it. We're starting. Remember, we started. I said, everybody, raise your hand if you'll come to a basic class. So when was the moon created? You're about to learn. All right. So one of the first 6 days, very wise. In the beginning, there was nothing except Hashem. Now, without going into too much detail, one of the big concepts we've been speaking at the book club is the idea of tzimtzum, of contraction. Hashem filled the whole world. Then Hashem decided he wants a world. Now, in order for anything to exist besides God, they can't feel God. They feel God, they'll cease to exist. So Hashem did something called tzimtzum, where he contracted himself in a way that we can feel like people, like ourselves, but God is still there, just not visible, right? So what happened was Hashem created the world in 6 days and he rested on the 7th. Now in Hebrew, the word create literally means to make something out of nothing. How is that different from when we make something?
You make something from something.
Correct. Usually when you make something, it's always from something. You can't just go like this and something comes out. That is the miracle of what God did. There was nothing and something came. Do you know not how did Hashem create the world, but how does it describe how God created the world? So we know the verse number 6, Bereshis, very good. Hashem spoke the world into being. Something called the Asar Mamaris. Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. Hashem said.
So he willed it.
He spoke it. Yes. So day 1, Hashem saw, you'll take We'll read together. Hashem saw that there was nothing in the world. This is from the Torah. So he said, let there be light, and there was light. Hashem saw that the light was good, so he divided it from the darkness. Then Hashem decided to call the light day and the dark night. Hashem then separated the waters into the sky and the sea. One thing I forgot to that doesn't mention over here is that Hashem basically made the light, and then he separated it from the darkness, and he called that night. And then it says in Chumash Bereshis, in the beginning of Bereshis, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, Yom Rishon, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker, Yom Sheni. What does that mean? That it was Erev. What's Erev? Evening. Vayihi Boker. It was morning. Yom Rishon. It was day one. That's where the concept, people say like, oh, every day in God's world is a billion years. There's a lot of different things. It's clearly written in the Torah that the day was the 24 hours. It was from evening till the next evening. That's how we know the 24-hour concept is a godly thing, number one. Number two, that is why in the Jewish calendar, everything starts the night before. Erev Shabbos, Friday night, and it ends. So the night before is the beginning of the day as Hashem created it to be. So an Erev, that's why Shabbos starts Friday night. A birthday starts the night before. Rosh Hashanah, every holiday starts the night before. Correct, with the sun setting. That's what it says in the Chumash, in the Torah, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker. And then Hashem separated the waters into the sky and into the oceans. That was day number 2. Day number 3, Hashem made the earth and the sea. On the earth, he said, let the earth sprout grass and herb trees with fruits and seeds for vegetables. And then there was earth and sea. So everything, all the grass, the trees, the mountains, everything connected to the earth was created on number 3. And it says in the Chumash that on Tuesday, day number 3, and it was good. Kitayv, it was good. And it says it twice. This Tuesday's a good day because there's a double goodness. So look at us. Tuesday is a good day. And finally, on day number 4, that's when the moon was created. Hashem wanted a system to tell the time and the difference between days and nights. So Hashem made 2 lights, one to rule the day and a smaller one to rule the night together with the stars. Why did Hashem need to create stars? At first, Hashem created the sun and the moon to give the same amount of light. This was our conversation last year. But then the moon complained that it was impossible for 2 kings to rule with the same crown. So Hashem says, okay, the moon will give less light and made the stars to help the moon give light. Shouldn't have asked. He was jealous. That's how the moon came to be. They were originally equivalent. Day number 5, Hashem wanted something to go in the sea and the sky. So he put fish and creatures in the sea and he put birds to fly in the sky. Hashem blessed the animals in the sea and the sky to have many children and multiply. And Hashem also created insects. So birds, insects, and sea animals, fish, were born on day number 5. And finally, on the last day, Hashem wanted living creatures on the earth. So he created animals and beasts of the earth. And then part 2, Hashem said to make man so that he can rule over all the animals and all of the things that creep on earth. Why did Hashem choose to make people on the last day?
He needs a manager.
He needs a manager. How about the opposite? It's not that he needs a manager. He created it for man. The world was created for man. And man can either destroy or build. And it's always the humans that mess up or that build up. It's not the animal. When you see an animal, when you see an animal rip another animal, you may feel sad for the one that's not the predator, the victim, or the prey. Thank you. What?
The question is, if there was only one person to create only Adam, and he created the entire world for one Adam.
So hold on a second. Let me finish my thought about the prey. Is that you don't look at the animal, you feel bad, but you're not. If you see a person kill another person, why do you get upset? You don't get upset when you see an animal kill another animal to eat.
Because God created man.
That's part of the laws of nature.
Correct. Part of the laws of nature is that's the way it's orchestrated. Yeah. How does it work with man? What's the one thing that we have over every single being? Yeah. Why did it have to tell us? The ability to reason and the ability to choose. Animals are very smart. They can reason on their own level, but they don't have impulse control. In fact, King Solomon wanted to prove this. He once he met with the emperor, and he said, "I promise you cannot um, train an animal to choose." And the emperor disagreed with him. He trained cats. Talks about this story, how he trained a bunch of cats to be waiters. And they were walking around serving tea, perfectly trained animals, like a circus. And then King Solomon threw a couple of mice on the floor. There went the waiters. So what is the idea? Is that what makes a human being is that we have not only free choice, but we have the concept of choice. And if we choose bad, we're lower than an animal. But if we choose good, we're higher than an angel. Because angels also don't have free choice, like an animal. But angels do the will of God, and so do animals on their own level. But we're not greater than an animal, and we're not greater than a plant. We're not greater than a rock. We each have a soul of God. In fact, the story, actually, I was reading it from our book club book. We didn't get to it today. I thought it was such a powerful story. The previous Rebbe was once walking. I forget if it was with his child. I'm going to quickly check, or it was with his students, which is basically they were walking in a forest. And here's the story. He was walking with, he was a teenager, and he was taking a walk with his father. He pulled a leaf, like you're walking, you pull a leaf. Who doesn't do that, right? You snap it, crack it. And his father chided him, explaining that every leaf is invested with divine life, a spark from God who created it. And this was a life-changing moment for the young rabbi when he learned that he must be aware of how he acts towards everything around him, even a tiny leaf. Everything that's created is a godly creation. We don't have the right to do whatever we want. It's God's world. We view the world through that way. We treat the world differently, even a tiny leaf. Every leaf has a purpose. Every mountain has a purpose. So how much more so every man has a purpose? How sad is it that there are so many people walking the face of the earth that don't feel any sense of purpose, that have no reason to feel that there's a reason why they're here? One of the things we spoke about last week at our class is that birth is God's way of saying, not only do you matter, but the world couldn't survive without you. Today is the day. So in answer to your question, Liba, that Hashem created one man for this whole world. First of all, obviously Hashem had the intent that the world would multiply by people. But more than that, Rashi actually addresses your question. Rashi is one of the basic commentaries on the Torah, and Rashi discusses how Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam. There's a saying in Rashi, the world was created just for me. Now, you can take it in one way and say, oh, the whole world is mine. Or, I've got the whole world at my disposal. What am I going to do with that privilege and responsibility? Yeah. Yes. And this is a Jewish concept. Yes. Go ahead.
So, just because of it, the reason why the people multiply because they created sin.
Huh?
That was the reason. Because they ate the apple.
Yeah.
There was only reason they multiplied. Or there was another way for God to create a world full of people.
What makes you say that?
Because
the sin of the tree, what does that have to do with multiplying?
But it was against the God's will to eat from the tree of knowledge.
So what happened then?
They understood they're different. They have a different sex, right? Or no?
No, that's no. I could see where the confusion is. I'm glad you asked. Mm-hmm. What happened was that day that Hashem created Adam and then He created Eve, He gave them a commandment. He says, "You can eat from this beautiful Garden of Eden." It was luscious and the fruits were special. He says, "There's two trees here. There's the Eitz HaChaim and the Eitz HaDas. There's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. You cannot eat from the tree of knowledge. The knowledge is what gave them the awareness of, hold on one second, gave them an awareness of their nakedness. Nothing to do with multiplying, nothing to do with their gender. It gave them an awareness of their nakedness because there was a shame associated with their nakedness only after the sin. Why? Before then, the whole world was filled with Hashem's light in a way that they did not see it as a difference. The body and the soul were so closely connected, they saw a body for what it was, the beauty of the body. They didn't look at it as what the potential negative that could be done with the body. The neshama, imagine like a light bulb in a body shining through. When you look at a body, all you see is light. But what the tree of knowledge did was that it brought upon shame because all of a sudden they realized the potential of what can go wrong. And unfortunately, there's so many things in life, including intimacy, that can be negative or positive. Unfortunately, I actually asked this question to my teacher when I was studying as a bride. I said, if this is such a special mitzvah, why is there so much trash around it? Right? There's so much vulgarity, if that's a word, or like it's nobody's going to tell you that intimacy. It's a very unusual thing to say intimacy is holy. Anything you look at it like more of like a I'm trying to think of the word in English, more of like a not necessarily holy, the opposite of holy almost. It's more or dirty, physical, not spiritual. And I asked that to my teacher because I was like, this is when you study the mitzvah for the first time and it's all its details. And she told me something I'll never forget. She says, anything that has a very, very high source has the ability to fall very, very low. Like when you have a building, right? Very, very high, it falls the lowest. So anything that is extremely holy has the ability to go to the opposite extreme of unholiness. That's why we have to be misused. Correct. And that's what happened on that day at the Garden of Eden, was when they went ahead and ate from the tree of knowledge, they changed the course really of humanity. But everything to a degree is predestined, so it was obviously meant to be. But that's what we're going to talk about when we get to the concept of Mashiach, which is in... Listen, at the end of the day, Adam and Chava made choices. And that's really the message that Hashem gives us throughout our life. We have the ability to make choices. That's actually the only thing we have control over. We don't have control of what happens to us. We don't have control over our circumstances. We don't even have control over our families. Even though the soul does choose the parents before they're born. Did you know that? That a soul chooses its mother and father. But aside from that, you don't choose the family you're going to be born into. You don't choose anything. But you choose the way you react to life and the way you use the world that Hashem created. So what happened on that day was the sin of the tree of knowledge, which really changed the whole, and that's when everything changed. And we're going to talk about that. But I want to just talk for a second about day number 7. Now that the whole world was created, Hashem made the 7th day a day of rest. And he blessed this 7th day that no one should do work. And when we spoke many months ago about the mitzvah of Shabbos, which we're not going to get into now, is that as Jewish people, we rest with Hashem. And that's why we don't do anything that's considered creative work. That's the biggest misconception that people have. It's like, if I walk 4 miles to shul, isn't that work? It's anything that is creative. And we spoke about this already, that creative is connected to the 39 laws that were used to build the tabernacle. Those are considered creative work. So that's the day of creation in short. Day 1 was light and dark. Day 2 was the sky, the heavens and the sea. Day 3 was water, dry land, grass, flowers, trees, and plants. Day 4 was the sun, moon, and stars, and the planets. Day 5 was fish, insects, and birds. Day 6, animals, and Adam and Chava. And day number 7, Hashem rested. And by the way, when we rest on Shabbat, when we observe Shabbos, we are testifying that Hashem created the world in 6 days of rest, and on the 7th, we're showing that we agree with him. We agree with that concept. We actually, we actually say in the Kiddush that we do on Friday night, we say we are testifying that Hashem created the world in 6 days. If you know the Kiddush prayer, that's what you're actually saying on that cup of wine. We're sanctifying this day and we're testifying that we believe that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. It's 1:05. I gotta stop. I know, too fast. All right, we'll keep going. Next week, we're going to talk about the 13 principles of faith. That's our next topic for next week. Anyways, see you all next week. Oh, sorry. Any questions? You can come.
I love the way you said Torah obeying community. Is that what you said?
Torah observing. Yeah, it's a good line. In Jewish tradition, Sunday's the first day of the week, not Monday. I think that other religions, Christianity and etc., have taken the Sabbath to Sunday. But Shabbos has always been. Yeah.
God created the world in 6 days. And on the seventh, he rested. So it means 7 days he created.
Well, the resting wasn't really part of the creation.
Yeah, but it means 7 days altogether.
Yes. That's what makes a week. That's how we know that a week is a week. Wait, what's the question? What's the argument? He created in 6.
He created the world in 6 and 7. So 7 days.
Seventh day he stopped creating. But that was part of the whole package. It's the 7 days. That's how we know that there's a week. Where do you think the concept of a week came by? From God.
No, I understand weekend, but if he created the world in 6 days, on the 7th day, he relaxed. So it means he created 7 days.
He created a 7th day. That is correct. He didn't create on the 7th day, but he created the 7th day. That's an interest. Well, that's deep. Yes. It's always amazing.